The restaurant went quiet the moment my grandfather spoke. His silver fork hovered midair as he asked with a proud smile, "So, Kampa, how do you spend your $3,400,000 trust fund?" My breath caught. I froze halfway through sipping my coffee. "What trust fund?" Before we go any further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because I bring you new emotional stories every day, each with a twist that keeps you watching till the end. Everyone at the table turned to look at me, my cousins grinning like they'd been waiting for a show. Grandpa's question hung in the air, warm and casual, but it might as well have been a thunderclap. I forced a smile and said quietly, "I'm sorry, Grandpa, what trust fund are you talking about?" He blinked in confusion. "Your account. I set it up long ago. Your parents have been managing it until you were ready." My stomach dropped. My parents, sitting across from me, suddenly looked uncomfortable. Dad cleared his throat. "Dad, maybe this isn't the time to—" Grandpa cut him off, cheerful but firm. "Of course it is. Every grandchild got one. They've all already started their businesses, bought homes, traveled. But Kampa, you've been working 2 jobs. Surely your balance hasn't reached 0. I laughed faintly, though my pulse drummed in my ears. "Grandpa, I never saw a cent." An uneasy silence slid across the table. Mom's hand gripped her purse, knuckles white. My brother shifted beside her. Grandpa stared between them and me, his smile fading. "Kampa," he said slowly, "your account was funded under your name before your 18th birthday. It had quarterly deposits, investments. Are you telling me you didn't know?" I shook my head, and for the first time in my life, I saw my grandfather's eyes harden, not with anger at me, but at them. Dad tried to laugh it off. "You know how kids are. She probably just doesn't remember." "Enough," Grandpa said softly. "If that account isn't in her hands, someone has a lot to explain after dinner." And just like that, my perfect family's beautifully staged reunion turned into a silent battlefield. Mom glared at me like I was the problem, whispering, "You couldn't just smile and nod, could you?" No, I couldn't. Not when every word from Grandpa hinted at something I was never supposed to discover. Because if I was right, and I was, my parents hadn't just lied. They'd stolen, and the amount wasn't just life-changing. It was enough to destroy everything they built. Grandpa's words hung in the air long after dessert arrived untouched. The sound of spoons clinking against porcelain felt almost criminal in the sudden silence that had wrapped itself around the table. My mother dabbed her lipstick off with a napkin, her eyes down. My father took a long sip of water, pretending not to notice the storm brewing across from him. When Grandpa finally spoke again, his voice wasn't loud. That made it worse. "I've made monthly deposits into that account for 16 years. It should be overflowing by now. Where's the money, Stephen?" He didn't look at me. He looked straight at my father. "Before we move ahead, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and make sure you subscribe to the channel, because what happened next turned this polite dinner into the kind of scene you can't walk away from." Dad forced a nervous laugh. "Dad, you can't just toss accusations around. Maybe the bank made an error." Grandpa slid his phone across the table. On the screen was a bank copy of a trust statement from last quarter, balance, $47.38. My throat went dry. The last deposit Grandpa had made was clearly there, but right below it, cold and clear, were 37 unauthorized withdrawals labeled under my father's access code. For a second I thought he'd deny it, make up some random excuse like he always did when bills went missing. But even he knew there was no recovery from this. "It was temporary," Dad said finally, voice hoarse. "We were going to put it back. You know how rough these past years have been." Grandpa's fork hit his plate with a sharp clang. "You stole from your daughter's future." Mom stepped in quickly, her voice like sugar hiding poison. "You don't understand. We needed to take care of family. We're all family here, aren't we?" "Family," I repeated quietly. "You mean the family that let me work 2 jobs while you used my trust fund?" My brother muttered something under his breath. "Drama queen." "That's enough," Grandpa said sharply. Every head turned toward him. His expression softened only when his gaze landed on me. "Kampa, you'll call the bank tomorrow. The account will be transferred directly to your name and locked from now on. No one else touches a cent without your consent." Dad started, but Grandpa raised a hand. "Not another word." Mom tried one more time, her voice trembling for the first time all night. "You can't humiliate us like this. People are watching." Grandpa's reply was ice. "Maybe they should." Dinner ended with chair legs scraping the floor and broken silence swallowing everything. I walked out first, my heart pounding but strangely light. On the way to my car, my phone buzzed. An unknown number, one message. Asterisk, he doesn't know the whole truth. Don't trust Grandpa either. Asterisk. For a few seconds, the world tilted. Because the moment I read that text, I realized something else. This wasn't just about stolen money. It was about whoever didn't want me to find where the rest of it actually went. The wind outside bit cold against my cheeks as I stood by my car, phone still glowing in my hand. The message had no name, but I knew that tone. Precise, careful, almost rehearsed. Someone close. I opened the sender's details and froze. There was no number, just an encrypted ID. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat by my window replaying the dinner, every glance, every twitch of surprise on Grandpa's face. The text looped in my head, don't trust Grandpa either. Before I continue, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and hit subscribe, because what I discovered next turned this family feud into something much darker than missing money. By morning, curiosity overpowered hesitation. I logged into the bank portal using my new credentials. The account was there, empty except for the few dozen dollars Grandpa had seen, and a trail of diverted asset settlements leading to an offshore code. That's when things stopped looking like simple theft. I called Grandpa, keeping my voice steady. "Can we talk? You're at the house now, aren't you?" he asked. I paused. I hadn't told him I was coming. "How did you?" "I can see the security log on my end." "Come in, compa. It's time you knew everything." An hour later, I was in his study, surrounded by old photographs and mahogany shelves. He closed his laptop slowly, eyes heavy but calm. "You think your parents took everything," he said quietly. "They took most of it, yes. But I've been moving the larger portion for years, away from them." My heart pounded. "Away where?" "Into your grandmother's renewal fund," he said. "Your father wanted me to dissolve it when she passed, but she made me promise. Half of what they thought was yours is financing 23 girls' scholarships, food programs, clinics, things she believed in." I stood there, speechless. So the trust wasn't just mine. It was meant to teach you that wealth is weight, not comfort, he said. "I didn't tell you earlier because I needed to see whether you could stand on your own first." I wanted to be furious, but the anger didn't come, only disbelief and exhaustion. "So you let them rob me to test me?" He nodded once, eyes full of something halfway between guilt and pride. "I had to know which of you would end the cycle." "You did." When I walked out of that house later, the sky over the driveway had turned gray, snow falling in light flakes. I finally understood that none of them, not even Grandpa, would ever hand me peace neatly wrapped. I'd have to build it myself. That evening, I met Victor, a financial advisor recommended by a friend, and we set up a new foundation in my name. Half my earnings, my investments, even the pieces of a trust that remained, would fund people who'd never had a chance at all. It wasn't the fortune I'd imagined, but it was finally mine to direct, clean of everyone else's control. The last text that came that night wasn't from the encryptor, or Grandpa, or anyone from my family. It was from one of the scholarship offices. 3 simple words that made the whole storm worth it. Asterisk, funds received. Thank you. Asterisk. 2 weeks passed before things went quiet again, too quiet to trust. Everyone in my family stopped calling, stopped pretending. Even the gossip articles vanished after Grandpa made a confidential statement. But silence, I've learned, doesn't mean peace. It means someone's planning their next move. Before I move ahead, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and make sure you subscribe, because after this, not even I saw what was coming. It started late one evening when I returned from a meeting about the new foundation. My front door was already unlocked. The lights were on, the mantel clock ticking steadily, and someone's coat hung on the back of my chair. Navy wool expensive. "Grandpa," I called, stepping inside. He turned from the window, cane pressed against the floor. "You weren't supposed to see the article yet," he said quietly. "They're publishing tomorrow." "What article?" He sighed, pulling a folded newspaper draft from his coat pocket. The headline read, Asterisk, billionaire family under investigation for tax laundering through charitable foundations. Asterisk, my pulse quickened. Grandpa, this isn't mine. My foundation isn't even 2 weeks old. He nodded. It's theirs, Compa. Your parents used the first trust to funnel loans and call them donations. That's how they kept the lifestyle. Someone handed the documents to the city paper. I think it's time they finally face what they've done. Who handed it over? His gaze held mine a second too long. Does it matter? Something in his tone made my stomach twist. You did, didn't you? I did what I had to, he said. Sometimes truth costs more than any trust fund. He started for the door, leaning hard on his cane. When those reporters come to ask, you tell them everything. The next morning social media exploded. My family name trended for all the wrong reasons. Mom's polished interviews, Dad's bored photos, all flashing across screens next to bold words like theft and deceit. By noon, my phone lit up with a number I hadn't seen in weeks, Dad's. When I answered, his voice was strained, hollow. You did this. You've ruined us. No, I said softly. You did. Grandpa just turned on the lights. There was a pause, and then a quiet, almost broken laugh. You really think he's innocent, don't you? You think Grandma's fund was real charity? Check those scholarships, Compa. You'll see whose pockets they filled. The call cut off before I could respond. That night, I sat alone at my desk, laptop screen glowing, my cursor hovering over a folder I hadn't noticed before. Asterisk, asterisk, records underscore private, asterisk, asterisk, created by the financial advisor Victor. When I opened it, a list of transactions appeared, each scholarship leading to numbered offshore accounts, none belonging to me. Half of them linked back to Grandpa. My chest tightened. So Dad hadn't been lying, not completely. I closed the laptop, the hum of betrayal filling the room. The foundation I thought would free me might have been built on secrets older than me. And suddenly I realized I was standing at the same crossroad they had, with a single choice left to make: bury the truth and keep my peace, or expose everything, even if it meant burning down the entire Kingsley legacy.